All right, ladies and gentlemen, Baron here. So quick note, I'm still not feeling very well. I feel probably just as good as the civil engineer that was sent on the German U-boat U-234, who was sitting in between over 1 ton of uranium oxide and then just like on a 6-month sea voyage when he had never been in the water before and he was just nauseous and claustrophobic as all tits. I feel like, maybe that's how I feel right now. But what we're looking at right here is a beast in its own right. Oh, it's the king tiger, right? Yeah, but maybe it's the king tiger that will finally live up to its name. It's got a great gun. It's got the same gun, right? We all know the king tiger is a pretty impressive beast. And while it performed very well in World War II, let's just throw aside strategic considerations like reliability and mobility and stuff like that, because that's actually one of the things they addressed in this one. Is it's now a diesel engined Tiger II. Imagine having fuel that you would run out of after like 12 kilometers. Think about how silly that is. Strategically, anyway, as far as strategic mobility, right? But now it's got a new engine and it's got a new fuel source, which is also a less combustible fuel source. So I'm interested to see how that plays in. More or less, if you look at it, the main things that you get in the Tiger II SLA-16, the diesel-engined King Tiger, let's just call him King Diesel, right? So King Diesel here has a few additions, a few changes and modifications that make him better than the Tiger IIs that we have already. So one of the things to remember is to remember and be made aware of is that this bad boy will be a premium tank. And I'm assuming it should have a relatively similar BR. There might be a little bit of an offset because there is a distinct warrant for maybe a small bump in BR for this thing relative to the Tiger II, right? But so let's talk about it. The power of the petrol-driven Maybach engine was obviously insufficient for a tank which was as heavy as the Tiger II. The engine would frequently overheat, and fuel consumption was unacceptably high. It was not wunderbar. The Tiger II could only travel a few dozen kilometers before having to refuel. Is that not nuts? Think about that for strategic mobility. Which is the best tank in World War II? Not one that you've got to if you look at the M1 Abrams, those things had just absurd fuel convoys behind them. But anyway, the Cimarron Graz Pauka SLA 16 diesel engine was developed for the VK4502 Tiger design of Ferdinand Porsche and was then added to the King Tiger after some further development. The new 16-cylinder turbo diesel engine not only solved overheating and fuel consumption related issues, but it also resulted in a considerable boost to the power of the engine, allowing the Tiger II to sport an impressive 750 horsepower in total. It's too bad you can't put that 750 horsepower in a Panzer II. Now that would be something I would like to see. But anyway, so the in-game model, the Diesel King Tiger, or King Diesel, implements additional protection with trax links fixed to all sides of the turret, in addition to adding an additional 30 millimeters of steel on every side of the turret. So front, rear, sides, 30 extra millimeters of plating, right? So that's added armor on top. Plus you have, it's kind of funny, Mr. King Diesel here, or Air King Diesel, it looks really, really unique because he is covered with tracks. And it makes you wonder why, if you think about, I would say, the relative affordability of a track versus a panned turret or panned tank, anywhere on the tank, it seems like there's probably a lot more extra tracks lying around, especially once tanks get disabled, than just not having them there. Is that just me? I mean, but that's one of those things that was probably learned over time and wasn't necessarily military doctrine or an orthodox practice or even an orthodox field modification. But you can see in War Thunder, like the difference between the Tiger H and the Tiger E, that placement of the track on the lower glacis plate is considerable. It makes a considerable difference because that is like the go-to weak spot when facing a tiger from the front, is that rather large, rather can't miss, shoot me here, lower glacis of the tiger, right? But the Tiger II, unlike its little kitty predecessor, the Tiger I, it's got a nice slope on the upper and lower glacis when facing it from the front. You do have the issue of the gun mantlet, which is very flat, but now you have the 30 millimeters of extra armor right there. So that, all things considered, is a welcome addition. Now on the sides, not only is there 30 millimeters of extra plating, but there's the 15 to 20 millimeters of extra spaced armor from the tracks that they put in. So it's a rather innovative way to have spare parts also function as spaced armor, as added protection. German engineering, no? It is wunderbar. So, all things considered, this, a premium rank 4 tank, should be a welcome addition to German tankers. Now, is it like, all right, I'm going to go out there and, I'm going to fight T-10s and T-54s and stuff like that? You'll feel a little more comfortable, but the Germans still are looking, just like with jets, they're still looking for that big, big bad boy that they need to fill out the top of their line. Because right now all we really have is the Mouse in the E-100 and the Tiger II and its modifications, and some very, very good tank destroyers. That's pretty cool. Plus, with the addition of the Nashorn, we might get some pretty cool German SPGs, because the Germans had a penchant for finding ways to put giant mother trucking guns on top of anything that could move, whether it be a motorcycle, a tank chassis, or, a train. So there's that. Plus, if you haven't seen the P-1000 or the P-1500 Man of War videos, that's where some things that were designed by the Germans, but thankfully never put into action, where the German ingenuity really just kind of were like, hey, here you go, German scientist. Here is 8 bottles of schnapps. Now draw me a plan of a super tank. And they're like, oh, this is wunderbar. I have the plan right here. They came up with some crazy stuff. But this is a bit more of a practical idea. You'll notice, like, no one, I don't think any other nation did it quite as well as the Germans, or really had to do it quite as good as the Germans during World War II, as to adapt their weapons and their armored vehicles to have to adapt with the ever-changing and ever-evolving armored forces of their enemies, the Soviets and the Allies. And yeah, I know they're all, but let's just say politically, right? But like the United Kingdom, the United States, and then the USSR, like they were pumping out new stuff all the time, and the Germans were getting the shit bombed out of them day and night, and then had to throw everything they could, well, that was their problem, against the Russians, who, hey man, Russians are going to produce. As Joseph Stalin once said, quantity has a quality all of its own. So, needless to say, but when you look at like an outdated chassis or an outdated tank like the Panzer III, which there was plenty of them, and then all of a sudden, boom, Stug 3, the most produced German tank, we'll call it, of World War II. Because they're like, we have this tank that is no longer adequate. Well, let's shorten the profile, put a nice big gun on it, and use it as an ambushing style casemate tank destroyer. Let's make the best of what we have. So the German ingenuity there to adapt with what they had, I think was pretty impressive, all things considered. I think they did a very good job at it, and I think the Tiger II SLA, or King Diesel himself, is pretty cool in that regard. So, but let's think of it practically. What does a more powerful engine allow you to do? It allows you to scoot forward and scoot back and traverse a little easier and a little quicker. Maybe baiting someone into shooting, and then you know those moments where you have someone in your sights, and right as you're firing, he just scoots back just 2 meters, and you miss your shot, or instead of hitting a flat spot, you hit a nice sloped spot, and you just missed an opportunity. And when you're dealing at the high tiers and you have those big guns with a slow reload, or God forbid you lost a crew member and now your reload rate has dropped to tits, well then, you're going to have a problem. And that little critical moment, that quick acceleration just in a small distance, made all the difference. Now, a lumbering beast like the Tiger II has that ability. It's quicker in the short moves, it's more maneuverable, and it's quicker once it gets up and running. So the engine allows it to leave cover and take a shot far more quickly than return back to cover after it's attacked. That's what it says on the dev blog. So you know what? The Tiger II commanders. If you love your Tiger II, and I mean, when you look at a Tiger II, that thing is pretty damn impressive looking. It's very menacing looking. And then when you consider like who it was fighting and what it was fighting when it came out, right? But so the engine will be much appreciated, plus the up armoring of the turret. So when you find yourself in a hull down position, you do a little bit better. You still got that flat gun mantlet, but it's 30 millimeters thicker. So, and it's going to have the same powerful 88 millimeter KWK 43 gun that the other King Tigers have, with the armor-piercing capped ballistic capped round, armor-piercing composite rigid APCR, and then heat rounds and high explosive rounds. You never know when you're going to need those. Infantry, give us infantry. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much wraps up the beauty of the Tiger II SLA-16, or King Diesel himself. But have I told you about my friend, the lonely French Charby 1 tank, and how glorious that would be in the game? It'd fit pretty well as a German premium, as a holdover till we get our French trees. I'm just gonna throw that one out there for you. So anyway, who's excited for this thing? It's a pretty significant. I would say it's akin to the T-34E, like that old school T-34E with just like that spaced armor all around that thing. It's akin to that much of a field modification. Well, T-34E is probably not necessarily a field modification, but you catch my meaning. So, ladies and gentlemen, this was the 11th vehicle that they've put out on the dev blog. We've had the Dornier 335, the T-44-100, Falcon AA, the Tier 5 British SPAA with twin 30 millimeters, the Focke-Wulf 189A1 Flying Eye, which is one of my favorites, the KB-1S, the P-61 Black Widow, which I think right now is still my favorite, the Fighting Vehicle 4004 Conway, the Key 83, which is going to really make some Japanese pilots happy with how destructive that thing could be. The S-25 Sunderland, which is going to be another fun, albeit wonky, low-tier aircraft, maybe akin to the early days of the PBY. Oh, when there was a Tier 1 PBY, when they still had the 20-tier system. Those were the days, boys. And then finally the Sea Venom FAW-20 with Nigel as the only two-seated jet fighter. So all things considered, like, we've got 11 previews as to what's happening. And there's some pretty cool stuff that they are going to add. And at first I was like, what is this thing? It's a Tiger with just tracks all over it. But then when you find out that there's 30 millimeters all around the turret, and it's got an up engine, and it's got tracks, that thing's going to be decently formidable in surviving, more than maybe that first shot against the turret, especially if you're angled and you hit on the side. This thing could be pretty deadly. You're definitely going to need to shoot at that gun mantlet, or, you know, basically that front plate of the gun mantlet. It's a very uniquely designed gun mantlet. But anyway, I'm pretty excited with the addition of this. I wouldn't say it's like gonna kill every Russian tank ever, you know, because who knows. But you know, it might catch on. Like, you might have less engine fires, you have more survivability. It's a competitive edge that other Tiger IIs don't have. And plus, when you consider it's a premium tank, it's gonna be a good grinding tank for research, Silver Lions, all that good stuff that you gonna need to get to that next level. So it should be interesting. I wonder how many people will buy them. But if you're a German tanker, I mean, it's a pretty, I mean, right now it's the only German tank that we have in there, isn't it? So what you think about that, German tankers? But German tankers, oh, never mind. We have the whatchamacallit? We have the Nashorn. So this would be the 12th, right? Yeah. But I was so excited for the Nashorn. I covered the Nashorn before I covered the Tiger II, King Diesel. So let me know what since you have the Nashorn and you know that the Tiger II Diesel's coming in, what is the most needed, not the most wanted, but the most needed German tank in the game to help everybody out? So, ladies and gentlemen, that should do it for now. If you'd like to see more coverage, you can check the video description below where there's links to some of the other videos I've done on the dev blog. I've been covering dev blogs and I've been covering dev servers since patch 1.27. It's one of my favorite things because I'm one of those idealist, imaginative types who just goes wild when you see like the potential and all the new additions. It's like all these new toys, man. Every new patch is like Christmas Day. Some Christmases are better than others, but this one might be. It's looking to shape up to be one of the better ones. I mean, there's some exciting stuff out there. Like, I'm wondering if they're going to add more flying boats and more tanks and more planes, right? More maps, who knows? But stay tuned, because if there are, I'll be covering them. And you know, every now and then, I've got that exclusive footage for you guys, which is pretty cool. And as someone pointed out in the comments, wrongfully, Baron, there's like 9 other YouTubers who are covering your Nashorn exclusive footage. No one else had a video out, much less the exclusive footage. So don't listen to that guy. He's a communist spy. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you soon.